I hope you enjoyed the first half of this conversation. This portion is the live technical interview with our guest. Feel free to follow along and create a solution of your own.
Okay. So when I interview people, I've kind of already hinted that it's a little bit unconventional and some of the reasons for that. So what I do is we do a pairing project, a paired programming project, where essentially me and the candidate or another engineer and the candidate, like depending on how big the team is and who all needs to be most involved, we'll sit down with the candidate and work with them for a couple hours on a specific project, like a specific issue in a specific project. So it's very narrowly scoped. And we typically will try to pick a project that is open source in the language a candidate knows, so that they're not like floundering because of language. Like I don't want that to be the barrier. And relatively simple from you can go into the project and kind of like see how it works and at least get some ideas beforehand. We send it to the candidate beforehand, so they're not like surprised on game day that, oh, I got to figure out how this project works. And we tell them to have it set up on their computer. So they've at least, cloned the project. They've run the node modules, ideally run the tests or whatever. We're going to be working in JavaScript. So I'll just talk in JavaScript land, but this would be the same in any other language that we work in. And we will pick with the candidate or sort of ask if the candidate has any suggestions for a specific issue in the open source project to work on. So for a lot of our candidates, this is the first time they've ever done an open source contribution, which is interesting. And that makes kind of another level of challenge, because a lot of them don't know, like, what am I supposed to do when I find an open source issue that I want to work on, right? So we try not to let that be a barrier, but I'll tell them, like, after we do this project together, if you want to go submit it, here's how you can do that if you so care. And I think a couple of them have, and so that's kind of fun. Like we're doing something good for the community as well as getting an interview out of the person. So I enjoy that part of it too. So when we do this, we do like a driver and navigator pairing, and the way that works, so what it means is one person is the driver, that's the person with the keyboard and the mouse and in control of the screen, and the other person is the navigator. And I'm not super strict on this, but like in an ideal world, the driver is only doing what the navigator tells them to do, and the navigator is all instructions are coming from them. The thing that we then will swap halfway through. And if the candidate is super senior or they know this project well, I may start with them navigating and me driving. But if the candidate is a little newer to the project or they've earlier in their career, I probably will be the one driving or navigating it first, so I can explain to them how to kind of get into the groove. It also, I think, helps lower the nerves a little, because starting off, I'm just going to be helping them see how to do something. Like, or I'm going to instruct them on how to do something, and I may ask them questions here and there, as we'll see. But anyway, so what I picked out for today for us to work on is from the Faker.js package, which is a pretty widely used JavaScript package that allows you to add fake data to your test suite. So I've always used this for JavaScript projects. And so I like the project. I'm very familiar with it. It's relatively straightforward. It's just a bunch of JavaScript files. It's not super fancy, not a lot of complicated builds in it and stuff. It's like, it's kind of old school. And so in a way, it's just like, it's just simple. And also we can do it test driven because they have lots and lots of tests to look from. So that is a lot of times, there's another thing that tends to be new for candidates is they may not have worked in a test-driven environment before. And so by us pairing on it, I'm going to show them how that works and how to do that. And so it's not like, even if they don't do that or haven't done that in the past, I'm going to kind of help get them to the first step of competency with it, where they're going to feel okay about it. So the goal is not to make the candidate feel like an idiot. The goal is to see how well they can pick up on things and understand things, and how willing they are to push back occasionally when I say something wrong, or give suggestions when I'm stuck, because that's going to happen at some point. And so anyway, I think there's a lot of things you find out just working together, sitting by somebody. I will say weaknesses of this process are that some people get really nervous because they've never done this pairing. They've never done test driven. They've not worked with me before. It can be scary to have basically somebody looking over your shoulder while you dev. That is not natural. And I totally acknowledge that. And I try to tell them, I get that that's going to be a thing up front. I'm not grading you on your perfection of syntax or anything. That is not the goal. We're going to look up when we forget the function name. We're going to look it up. That's what we really do in real life. So try to make it just a lower pressure, ideally kind of environment. So that all makes sense. Any questions on that, Taylor?
No, that all makes sense. To give people a reference point, and I think I've said this before, I'm not an expert interviewer. I'm an early career engineer, and I think I check all the. I was familiar with Faker. I haven't used it really, but I know what it does. You sent it to me last night, and I was working through it, but then was definitely stressed because I couldn't get the test to run until we got on the call, and I've done pair programming very, very limitedly. So also like maybe a stress factor. So count me in that box of like, was nervous, had issues with the build early on, and was freaking out about it until minutes before this call. I really enjoy doing this podcast, but the stressful part, and probably the part that I hate the most, but also love the most, is the technical portion, right? Because it's still the part that I go, who knows? Maybe it's going to be a podcast of me just failing outright, and I think that's kind of the fun part. So
yeah, I mean that's part of it, and that's okay. But from this, I'll get a good idea of where you're at with JavaScript and where you're at with the kind of just coding in general as a developer, and also kind of like how well do we work together? Because at the end of the day, I've worked in small companies where the 5 to 10 engineers, we all like get to know each other pretty well, work together very closely. Like if you don't like working next to me and I don't like working next to you, we shouldn't work together. So let's avoid that, right? Cool. So the issue I had picked out, I don't know if you want to pull it up and we can look at it real quick, and then I'll
yes.
Yeah.
You can see this here.
Usually the best place. Yeah. So the best place to start is we will look at this issue together. So this one is module request Word. And to understand this one, you kind of would need to know a little bit about how Faker works, but that's all pretty explained pretty well in the README. The idea with Faker is you say faker.something.something. And usually those two somethings are the type of data you want to mock, and then more specific information about the type of data you want to mock. So as an example, you might have faker.date.day, and that might give you like a random day of the week or something. Yeah, so you can look through the docs and see what this, let's see if we can find a good example to kind of show.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's one, faker.name.findName. And so this would give you like a random name essentially for a user that you could use in test data. So the issue that we picked out is a new module, which doesn't exist in Faker today, called Word, that would let you do things like word.noun and get a random noun, word.pronoun, get a random pronoun, word.verb and get a random verb. So I don't know, initially, Taylor, when you think about that, like what are some challenges, even without looking at the code even, that you think we would have to figure out in order to do this?
Yeah, what's interesting is they reference a dictionary here, right? So we wouldn't have to include the entire dictionary. My first thought is, one, where is that dictionary? Like, what are they pulling from? Is that a separate library or is that a part of Faker? And then two, are these things categorized now as nouns, verbs, adverbs? And then three, how does this module Word work currently, right? Because if we're calling noun on Word, or if noun can replace Word, right? It seems like top module they might be looking for, instead of calling Word, you're calling noun. But those are all questions I would have.
Okay. So yeah, the first thing is Word doesn't exist as a module. So this is a completely new idea, and it's 7 days old. So it's a relatively new idea someone came up with. I think actually Merrick, I think he's the guy who runs the library. So he thinks we should add this whole new top level module called Word that is unlike enough from any of the other modules that we won't even be able to start with anything. But it is probably similar enough to a couple of them that we could use those as a template to get us started. And then we're going to have to figure out, like to your point, how do we find a list of nouns? How do we have a list of pronouns? What's a list of verbs? Like where are those? And like what would be good ones? Another tricky thing, and we're not going to do this today because way too hard, but Faker also has some language like variants. So in other words, it sort of localizes language. And so we will only be able to do this in English, but someone may later add in other words for other languages, and we want to give them a template or way to do that. And so our solution that we're going to do in the 30 minutes here is not going to be that complex, but just looking at it from like, if you were a more senior engineer, we might actually get into like, we might try to really like get all the details going, but we're not going to try to do that in 30 minutes. That's unrealistic. Plus, even if we were going to do that, we'd start with the simple solution and then we'd move up. So the first thing I want to do with you, Taylor, is like, let's open up the code base and take a look at 2 different files that I think are going to be relevant and similar to what we're going to do here today.
Yes.
So the first one is test, and then the file is going to be called lorem, I think, .unit, lorem.unit.js.
Yes.
And so the lorem module is actually I think it's the most similar to what we're going to be doing here. Lorem is going to generate random words and a single word. And so the tests here, you can see it's like describe word. When no length param is passed in, returns a word of a random length. And so it's generating fake words. So we could probably use this as our starting point to generate our fake words for this new word module.
Yeah.
Any questions? You're giving me a look. I want to make sure.
No. This makes sense to me. This is what I didn't realize Word doesn't exist at all. I thought it was specifically adding those kind of subcategories of Word. And when I was looking for Word in here to see how we would break it up before we got on the call, lorem was what I was like, okay, well, I know what lorem is. And that would, if I remember correctly, lorem is just basically just Latin fake words that people use to spit out on a website.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So this makes sense to me. This was the kind of what I was looking at.
Awesome. So like I said, we're going to try to do kind of a test-driven development. And so in order to do that, we need a new test and probably a new test file for our new module. So even before we've created the module, we're going to start by creating a test file. And because I am a lazy developer, what I would do if I were you is I would copy lorem.unit.js and paste it. And we're going to like cut a lot of it out, but that'll at least give us a starting point because ours is going to be pretty similar and it's going to save us time from rewriting all that.
Great.
Okay, so now we've got lorem.unit. Let's call it Word, I guess. Let's call it Word. Word.unit.js. Yep, Word.unit.js. Cool. And now I think we can get rid of let's just keep one test. We're going to keep this really simple. So maybe that the first describe block where you see word in parentheses, up through line 25. Get rid of everything below line 25 while keeping that very last bracket so we don't break the thing.
Great.
Yeah, so in real life, we would maybe have more tests, but we're just going to do one for now and kind of get ourselves started. Okay, so we know that this is going to try to describe a new module called probably word.js, I think. So where it says describe lorem.js, we want to switch that to word.js.
Great. And
then where it says describe word, what is the first method we want to do? Let's just do like noun for now, because that's the first one he listed on his list, and noun is relative. I know what a noun is. I can never remember conjunctions and interjections and prepositions, so like we'll look those up later. But now
I was going to say that would be my third, fourth, and fifth question: is can we define the rest of these?
Right. Yeah, in real life, there's a lot to this problem that we won't try to get to for a quick interview. But okay, so then let's just start with we don't know what the parameters are going to be yet, because in real life, we might sit down and talk more about this, but to keep this brief, let's just get rid of one of the context blocks and just keep one of them. So we'll just have one single context block in here. Yeah. And for the one that's left, let's say like when no param passed in, return a random noun. Returns a, random noun. Awesome. And now the method we're going to call is going to be, word.noun instead of lorem.word. Okay, great. And then right now, all it's doing is asserting that is a string. What's interesting about this kind of test is we have to figure out, like, do we want to assert that it's an actual noun, and how would we assert that? Because we'd have to use the same list of nouns or something. So we may come back to that. Let's go ahead though and just run our tests again and see that this test fails, because we're doing test-driven development. There's kind of this whole mantra of red, green, refactor. And so we're going to get this to red, which is failing first. And then we'll worry about fixing it.
Good.
And I think we can, once we do this once, we can probably run just this one test module. I can't remember we may have to look up how to do that, just so we don't have to run all of them, which is, going
My MacBook doesn't crash from running tests.
Right. It's like running tests plus recording a Zoom plus you got your IDE. Like, this thing is pushed to the max here.
Oh, and I'm using my cell phone hotspot for the Wi-Fi. So.
Oh God. Yeah. There's a lot of tests here. It may be running them in different languages too. I don't know. Yep, there we go. Okay, good. So we got 16,000 tests passing. Okay, so as expected, we have a failure. It's not going to work because Word it's not a, cannot find property noun of undefined. Word is not defined. So we're going to need to do that. Let's look up how to run just this one test, because is it using jest? Is that what this is using, or is it something else?
I don't know how to tell.
Or Mocha. Might be. Yeah, we got Mocha and Chai, maybe. It looks like it. So could you Google for me, Taylor,
yes,
how to run one test in Mocha? I can't remember, is Mocha the runner or is Chai the runner and Mocha's the framework?
Mocha.
JavaScript testing is not my strong suit.
Same here. I manual tests when I need to test that.
Okay, so we got it. So now I know I got to break that habit of Taylor when I hire him. Okay.
Yes, we're not a test-driven development company.
Well, it's about, I think of people I've met, about half of them write automated tests and about half of them do not just do manual tests. So I don't think you're, alone in that, but yeah.
Data point.
Oh, is it like
matching pattern?
So you do. This is something different.
Yeah.
Go back to the test code. Is it, I'm thinking maybe you could just use fdescribe in front of word.js. So where it says describe in front of word.js, make that fdescribe. Yeah, let's try running the test again. I can't remember if this is the way to do it or not. Mocha.
Fdescribe's not defined.
Nope. That's not right then. Single test.
Here we go.
Oh, we could run a single file.
It's Mocha grep. And then let's see. I thought it said Greg.
Maybe it is like that grep and then, yeah, let's give that a shot.
Yeah, maybe.
So,
NPM.
yeah, there you go. Is it npm test and then the dash grep thing?
Yeah, let's try it.
Right, because we need to tell it. Yeah.
Try it one more time. Oh boy.
You got them all going.
Yeah. Yeah. That was all of them again.
Okay, so describe.only looks like it might be one way to do it. So if we go back to the test code, yeah, there you go. We ran into it at the exact same moment. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sure the grep thing works. I just don't want to. This seems easier.
Yeah. Let's see. There we go. Great.
Awesome. Okay, great. So now we have a failing test. So next thing, and actually I'll ask you, Taylor, what do you think is the sort of next logical step?
Well, we need to find basically what this is actually referencing, right? I'm assuming it's in, well, we just created word.js, right? So I don't know. I don't think that exists yet. So we would need to build that.
Correct.
And then build the function. So this test actually, well, something happens when we call word.js.
Right. Yes, exactly. Cool. So the main files for Faker, like all the different modules, I guess, are in lib. And this is a pretty common pattern in JavaScript. Like lib will be all the primary library. And so the one called Lorem.js, we could just copy that.
Yeah.
And paste it again as word.js and start there. And then that way we follow the same patterns. Yeah. Okay. So there's a lot of stuff in this, but we only need to find one function. So you can probably get rid of everything after line 26 up until the last bracket, just to make sure we don't break the class that this thing is, or object. I think you need to keep the return self, maybe. Yeah, I think everything else is safe to go. Yes. Okay. So now what you were doing is right on, like faker.word is what we're going to call this in the namespace.
Yeah.
And then
should it just, does it make sense to replace them all?
All instances of lorem could be replaced with word. Probably, although you got to watch the capitalization because lorem is capitalized in the next line.
Yeah, word there, words.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nice. Okay. And the only method we're going to create is called noun for now. So get rid of word and replace that last word with noun.
Great.
And we are not going to have a param, so you can delete that line. But now we know if we did want to add one, that's how we would do it. And then self.word should be self.noun. So in the line right below where your cursor is. Yep. All right. And then you can get rid of the length parameter because we're not going to have a parameter again. Yeah. And let's just really simple because we are, kind of going for our very minimal working thing. Let's just do return and return a random noun that you want to think of. And then we'll go in and fix it, make it real.
Person, place, or thing.
And that'll be, so you've got self noun function. And then inside there's a bunch of stuff. You can delete all that and just do like return cat or something.
Yeah. We're not even going to call faker here because it's not an actual random noun.
Correct.
Right? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. We're going to do all that. We would basically, we kind of want to start with just making sure that we can get this test to pass. And the reason I'm breaking it down this way is that I don't know if this file needs to be loaded somewhere or something needs to happen that we haven't done yet. So I don't want us to be chasing down like that bug while we've written the code that doesn't work too. And so this kind of allows us to test one little thing at a time and get it working. And then we'll go back and make it right.
Yeah. Great.
So you can run that test again. Let's see, this time well, I don't know, it might pass, but it also might need to be imported somewhere. I don't know. I don't remember how this library works. Okay, so that did not work. So there's somewhere, cannot read property noun of undefined. Yeah, so it still doesn't know about this word module as part of Faker. So now we need to figure out how it gets imported. Any ideas or any places we could look, Taylor?
I'd go to the documentation. I know I ran some type of npm install. I don't know if there's like an npm build we would need to run, something like that before like this beforehand. But what do you think?
Well, it seems like it'd be worth trying.
Yeah. I don't know if this uses Webpack or Gulp maybe. I'm not
probably something older. Yeah.
But typically, that's what the stuff I've done with that is it would need to do some sort of process before we can actually use it.
Yep.
Okay. Like maybe try the test again.
Still not so good. Let's see, where else would we?
I think there's a script in here. Yeah. Test, lint, readme, JS docs. None of that would make sense to me.
Let's see, what could we do? We could search for
I don't think this is we wouldn't need to run JS docs.
No,
HTML
I
API.
doubt it. Yeah, that would really surprise me.
Yeah.
One thing we might have to do though. Yeah. Okay. So I think I remember this now. If you go back to the code base, I'll show you
Yes.
something I think we missed here. We need to figure out. Okay. So scrolling up to the lib directory,
Mm-hmm.
inside of lib, there is a thing called locales. It's another directory.
Yes.
And this locales.js file just loads all the locale files. So if you go up to the locales directory above it, over in your file finder, yeah, just above address.js, there's a folder called locales.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
Yep, there you go. And then EN is the one we're going to go for. There's all these different variations of EN, like ENAU is English Australia. And so here's Lorem again.
Yeah.
I wonder if we need to have something like Lorem, but for words, or for Word that we just created. So, okay, this is interesting because this is where it looks like Lorem stores all the words for its dictionary.
Yeah.
And that makes sense, right? Because when we looked at that lorem.js file, there were no words in it. It wasn't like a big list of words. So there was kind of some black magic happening where it's like, how is it getting all these words? Now we know this is where it's doing it. So I think we need to add a new folder like Lorem, but for our Word module.
Yes. Okay, let's see. We could do the same thing, right? Where we copy and paste this in. This makes sense because we were exporting something in, right, where module exports
Right.
Word. So
Yep.
that makes sense. Okay, so this would need to be Word.
Yep.
Index should not change.
And you can just keep you can just keep the index file actually. The rest of them you can get rid of for now because we'll come back and bring those in. We're just going to get the thing up and running for today.
Should we put cat in words?
We could, but
from
our goal first. Yeah, our first goal is to get the test to run regardless of like it being actually like making any sense or not. Like, like let's limit our the problems that we might have to as small a space as possible. So yeah, in this index file, you can make it Word equals brackets. And then module exports equals Word.
Both of these Word.
And you can get rid of the Lorem words and Lorem supplements completely.
Yeah.
We're not going to do those for now. We'll come back and add those later.
Okay. Great.
All right, so let's try that again. Maybe this is what we were missing. Okay, still not. So there's an index file in that EN folder that I think just below, this. And I think this one needs to have a require for the EN dot word that we just created. Yep. I think now we're getting there.
Okay.
Let's try that again.
You might need a build again, but maybe not, right?
Yeah. A lot of times the test doesn't use the built files in these older JavaScripts. It's just running straight up, but I actually don't know that for sure. So it could be.
Even now, undefined.
Still getting undefined. Okay.
it be in here at all? Calling faker, but then we're not. I guess we are. I just know it was using faker before, but maybe now it's not.
Faker gets passed into Word. So it's like you have var word equals function, and then faker gets passed in as parameter. And then we attach this noun function to it. So that should all be good. And it returns self. So now we theoretically have a noun function on the word, but it seems like the word module is still not getting imported as we want.
Yeah.
So I need to keep looking at that. I wonder if they even... What about in libindex.js? What's in there?
Let's see. Index.
Here we go.
Yeah.
So we have a lorem. I wonder if this is, I think this is it. So let's copy that and do, yeah.
Okay. Oh, this we kept. Okay, great.
Let's try that again.
Do we need any definitions or? Words.
Good question.
Oh, nice.
All right, perfect timing.
Great.
It's time for me to go, and this was
Yes.
We got our first test running. So hopefully this gives you an introduction, to what it's like working together. This is
that's
fun.
great. That's great. I know you gotta run on the sales call, but I appreciate it. And I think great, very helpful for folks who, one, maybe need some hope that there's other types of interview out there than the whiteboarding style, and two, just very insightful hearing more from you, Karl. So thank you.
Yeah, happy to do it, Taylor. This is fun. I enjoy the interviews. Like one of the things you said earlier was how candidates enjoy these interviews. Like I enjoy them too, and honestly, that makes it a whole lot less painful to do for fun. So
yeah, anything? Obviously, Draft.dev. Anything else to plug before you go?
Yeah, no. If anybody out there is a software engineer who wants to do some writing on the side, we hire tons of software engineers to do writing projects for our clients. It's very low commitment. So if you ever do want to try that, you can put my email, Karl@draft.dev, up there, or you can go to draft.dev. There's a little link at the very bottom to apply to write for us. Otherwise feel free to find me on social media, or, ask follow-up if you've got questions. Happy to help out.
As it's probably apparent, Karl's a prolific writer, and there's lots of great Twitter and LinkedIn posts on a regular basis. One of the few that I'm like, oh, I have to actually follow and read these. So follow him. All right. Great. Well, thank you so much. Have a good call.
All right. You too. See you, Doug.
Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe on YouTube or your favorite podcasting app at The Professional Technical Interviewee. I want to thank my guest and my wonderful editor and producer, Dustin Bays. If you're interested in sharing your technical interview advice and being on the show, please reach out at dorsetttaylordev@gmail.com. Until next time, keep practicing.